Or leave for the restroom. I would do that now. A couple minutes. I have an introduction, conclusion, and 3 chapters. Sorry. I wrote this recently, and I realized I didn't have any tips because I'm recently married myself. My wife, Jessica, beautiful. But I wrote a couple down. 1, listen to your wife, but don't buy a house until you have a kid. Number 3, go to 75% less work-sponsored happy hours. That's it. Now for the roast of Emma Kazmarek. I'm just kidding. Last minute speech. So Jessica, my wife, if I get kicked out, you can stay till the end of the reception. Usually my wife, who's significantly more socially capable than I am, she proofreads my speeches, so during my last, she didn't proofread this one. So my last speech, she cut 2 lines out as being too offensive. This was a eulogy for a funeral. So you can only imagine what's going to happen next. All right, I'll begin now. Introduction. Fornification. Excuse me. What I meant to say was for an occasion such as this. The best man gives a pleasant and short speech. As I said, this is not short and may not be construed as pleasant either. But let's start by thanking the families. It was great. Everyone came here down to Texas to be together. And we all traveled. Thank you. You know, I think the families are getting along pretty well. I noticed the Ronald Reagan stamp on my thing. Yes. I know Mrs. Kazmarek was in the teachers union as well, so we seem to be doing pretty good. So now that I've touched on sex, politics, and funerals in the first 2 minutes, I'm going to get to religion, race relations, and the role of homosexuals in the intellectual and professional development of Mr. Emmett Kazmarek. That will be in chapter 2, entitled An Illustrative Childhood Story for Emmett. This will get better. All right, chapter 1, about me and a brief history of my relationship to Emmett, a study of contrasts. So anyway, my name is Michael O'Connell. I don't even know if I introduced myself yet. I'm an accountant, and I work in the Climate Change and Sustainability Group. I am also a member of the Tea Party, so... That's awkward frequently at times. My life is filled with contradictions, which is kind of like me and Emmett's friendship. We're both Roman Catholic, which is nice, and so is Chrissy now as well, so welcome. We're both half Irish and half Polish, so Emmett got the Polish last name, I got the Irish one, I'm O'Connell, he's Kazmarek, so I'm fine with that. But the similarities pretty much end there. So, while Emmett is tall and somewhat athletic, I am of average height, and my coordination is so poor that I have trouble punching the keys correctly on my calculator at work as an accountant. Where Emmett is outgoing and fun-loving, I am retiring and socially anxious. When he first asked me to be his best man, I was terrified. I said, Emmett, you must have a better friend than me. But over time, I met everyone at the bachelor party, and I realized, he probably made the right choice. So Emmett and I met a couple weeks before high school. We were 14. We were on the cross-country team. Emmett was there to get in shape for basketball. Sadly, due to my lack of athleticism, cross-country was my primary sport. Chapter 2. An illustrative Emmett childhood story. I think it's important to share some stories to give some insight into Emmett's rock-solid character as a man, for those of you who don't know him as well as I do. Emmett always was and still is an ambitious and industrious individual. One of his many ventures as a very young man was illegally selling glow lights and trinkets during various summer festivals in Chicago. I I will always remember the first time I worked for Emmett. About 30 minutes into selling 25 cents worth of glow lights for $3 a piece, a large African American who happened to have a city license to sell at this festival that we did not have, approached me and started the conversation with, quote, "Yo, I'm not gonna beat you up, but you need to get out of here right now." I ended the conversation by running away. The licensed sellers did not appreciate us undercutting their prices. I was lucky though, because I'm pretty sure Chase, who's right there, was detained by the Chicago police for illegal selling activity. So I didn't have it bad. Emmett, of course, learned nothing from this experience. Well, he did learn that you can make a couple $100 for a couple hours of work. Undeterred, he later recruited Andrew Sargis, who I think is back there, to sell trinkets at the Chicago Gay Pride Parade. This selling environment was even more treacherous than before. With literally tens of thousands of drunken homosexuals, Emmett, due to his height, was pretty hard to resist, and I believe had a pretty profitable weekend. The fact that he handed Thomas Hefty's phone number out to his numerous customers did not hurt. I think Thomas still gets the occasional phone call to this day. So as you can see, Emmett could not resist the thrill of the sale, and he continues to work in sales to this day. This time as a professional at a reputable company. As a certified public accountant, I help him with his taxes, and he seems to be doing pretty all right for himself. But his sales job has been very fortunate in other ways besides a bottomless expense account and buckets of money, because it just happened to move him from the Carolinas and bring him to Austin, Texas, where he met a fine woman who, like his mother, happens to be a school teacher of all things. Chapter 3. Sorry, guys. Illustrative Chrissy story. Now, Chrissy is a kind and understanding person, which is a prerequisite, I believe, to marrying Mr. Emmett Kazmarek. Now, many of you may be thinking, how can he just call her kind and considerate and understanding? That's very generic. That's reasonable. I have a story to back up the statement. Almost 2 years ago, Emmett invited me to Austin for the weekend, and I took the liberty of arriving on a Thursday night and not leaving till Tuesday, so I'm pretty comfortable overstaying my welcome. But I digress. On Sunday, we stopped by Chrissy's place, which was actually not that far from here. I think you were next door, right? That way. Okay. So we stopped by, and she was on the porch grading homework for, what grade was it? First grade. First or second. That was it. So I'd never seen a real life grade school teacher grading assignments before, and I really wanted to help. I offered to review a couple of their papers, and I would suggest a grade. I started leafing through the papers. The project for the children was to address a piece of paper as though it were an envelope that you were going to mail it, so like to and from and so forth. So the first one I looked at was written primarily in Spanish. I suggested that child receive an F and be held back a year. I read another paper, and the child had addressed the envelope using primarily pictures that I think had last been seen in a cave drawing somewhere in New Mexico. I suggested an F and demote the child back to first grade from second grade. The final one was written well, but it was on a slant. I said D+. Chrissy, being a benevolent and kind woman that she is, quickly took the papers away from me, and I assumed passed all the children. And at that very moment, I knew that Chrissy was a perfect match for Emmett, and that Emmett needed her more than anything. Conclusion. For those of you that are not understanding the parallels of that last story, Emmett is the non-English speaking third grader in Austin, Texas grade school. And Chrissy is the kind and wonderful teacher who has given him a passing grade, even though he surely does not deserve it. And will hopefully teach him a few other things along the way. Chrissy, you're a saint. Good luck with this guy. Congratulations. I love you both.